I'm Scott. For those of you who I have not met before, I'm the executive director of the Anglican Foundation of Canada, and I have been in that role for 4 years now, 4.5 years. And it's just wonderful to have so many people from across the country joining us today. Thank you so much for taking the time. As I was preparing for this, I admit that I was feeling a little bit of deja vu back to the time when we had to move our AGM onto Zoom. Reminds me of 2020 and how everyone at that point was just learning how to use these controls and learning how to mute themselves and how to raise their hands and so on. You'll recall that we continued with that version of an online AGM in 2021 and 2022. So there were 3 years there where this was our approach. But after that, the board returned to its usual practice when travel became possible of traveling to different parts of the country for our spring board meetings. And we went back to having our annual general meeting in the different locations around the country at that time. And so for the last 3 years, we were in Halifax and Edmonton and lastly in Toronto. And while it's sometimes painful a little bit to think back on those intense periods of the pandemic and the ways that we had to adapt our work to deal with these strange and emerging realities, in hindsight, there actually was something good that happened. By holding our AGM online, we were able to connect with members across Canada in a way that's simply not possible with an in-person meeting. There was real value in that. And you, our loyal, engaged members, showed that you were keen to attend and to hear about what we were doing in support of the church. And in the last couple of years, when we went back to in person, we sometimes had people asking, "Oh, will there be an option to attend the meeting virtually?" And so it was last year after we held the AGM in Toronto that the board agreed, we should go back to doing it on Zoom again, just to allow people from across the country to be here and to join us, and to take that positive thing that we learned from the pandemic. And of course, now we all have so much more familiarity with how these online meetings work. So, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being engaged in our work and showing interest. And thank you for the generous support that you all provide to sustain our ministry. I want to use my time today to share some highlights from 2025, which was a very strong year for the Anglican Foundation on a number of fronts. I will discuss AFC's role as a strategic foundation in the church, which includes our leadership in areas like legacy giving and the newly established Anglican Foundation Legacy Society. And I will conclude with some of AFC's current activities and what we're looking forward to in the remainder of 2026. As I said, 2025 was a very strong year for the foundation. Um, in terms of the total grants awarded, in terms of the impact of our community ministries, and in terms of the response to our fundraising appeals. Just starting on the granting front. So 2025 was the fifth consecutive year of dispersing over $1 million in grants in support of the church. The total grants for 2025 were 1,094,000, which was about 20,000 more than the year before. And 50% of those grants were awarded to community ministries. If you look at this map, it's showing the breakdown of our 2025 grants by impact zone. So whereas in previous years, diverse infrastructure and community ministries were usually tied around 35% of funding each, representing 70% of our grants. This year, community ministries was far in the lead with nearly 50% of the grants total. Diverse infrastructure remained around 35% of our funding, and that was followed by leadership and education, sacred music and liturgical arts, and Indigenous ministries, which together comprise the remaining 15% of our funding in 2025. And consistent with previous years, about 15% of all of that funding went to youth-focused programs, and that number is included inside the numbers of the other grant zones. So within those five main impact zones, about 15% of that in total went towards youth-focused projects. So you can see community ministries continues to emerge as a defining area of impact for the Anglican Foundation. It was the focus of our request for proposals related to community ministry partnerships with external organizations. That was the RFP for 2025. And across the country, Anglican communities are responding to myriad challenges facing Canadian Anglicans. These are issues related to food insecurity, addiction, isolation, housing, reconciliation. And this kind of work is often carried out with these kinds of community partners and other external organizations that have a similar mission to the church, that's rooted in dignity and belonging and compassion for our neighbors. And so AFC is very honored to continue to support that work and to promote it in our granting. On the revenues front, in 2025, we had an extraordinary response to our annual membership campaign with the highest ever donations, reaching $232,000 in annual memberships. This was an increase of $50,000 or 28% over the previous year. And relatedly, the average parish donation in 2025 increased by 20% over the previous year. And I'm going to break that information down for you a little bit. We can attribute these increases in the membership donations to a number of factors. There has been steady growth in our annual membership numbers over the past 8 years. In this chart, you can see what our budgeted or target amount was each year in the light purple, and in the dark purple, the consistent trend upwards. And you can see how anomalous and special 2025 was in that regard. The increase we are and I just note that this increase took place during the years of the pandemic and even continues now in this tenuous financial environment that we find ourselves in, which has negatively affected many, many other charities. The increase we are seeing is emblematic of the deepening bond between the Anglican Church of Canada and its foundation. More and more Anglicans are hearing about our work and they are responding with generosity. One other factor in this growth has actually been the unpredictability of Canada Post, actually. It has caused us to shift towards a multi-pronged strategy to mitigate potential strikes and the possible loss of home mail delivery. So what over the last couple of years, when strikes have happened at inopportune times, we had an adaptive response to that disruption. Well, it's actually resulted in a more resilient and diversified fundraising model. We have become more targeted in our email appeals and Facebook promotions, sharing news stories with donors that relate to impacts within their diocese. And we are reaching greater numbers of people by employing this variety of platforms in addition to our traditional print mailings. The largest growth in our donations has come in the memberships, has come at the companion level donors. Those are the donors who give between $100 and $499 annually, and that's represented by the red line here. As well, we've been able to convert many of the former friend level donors who mostly gave at the minimum $50 level. That's the descending blue line you see here. Many of them have converted to become companion level donors, giving $100 or more, which has contributed to this increase. The amount received at the benefactor level, those giving over 500, and at the director circle level, those giving over 1,000, have also both doubled in the last 8 years. And I'm happy to share that for the third year in a row, we have seen a meaningful increase in the average parish donation. From 2022 to 2023, there was a 23% increase in the average donation amount. The average gift is the axis on the right of this table. There was a more modest increase of 7% in 2024, but then in 2025, we saw another jump of a 20% increase in the average parish gift. So it's now over $140. So while the total number of parish donors to AFC continues to hover around 500 per year, or approximately 1/3 of the Anglican parishes across Canada, that's shown in the blue bars, the number of parish donors at the friend level, that minimum donation amount, shown in orange, has decreased significantly. Increasingly, Anglican churches see the foundation as an important part of their outreach budget, and they are moving out of the minimum donation mindset and choosing to give more based on their capacity and the value that they place in partnering with AFC. A couple other notes on revenues. The Say Yes to Kids campaign in 2025 was one of the strongest to date, with 30 participating teams across the country collectively raising over $160,000 in support of ministry to children, youth, and young adults. We received some one-time unrestricted gifts, and we continue to receive donations from some donors who are interested in particular restricted funds, including Indigenous Ministries Fund or the Community Ministries Fund. We received donations still to the ACW Council of the North Retired Clergy Fund and the recently established Archbishop Linda Nichols Theological Education Fund. And so that combined together was about $35,000 of restricted and unrestricted donations. 2025 also saw the establishment of the Anne Germond Legacy Fund, which is a new partnership with the Diocese of Algoma to support the office of the Bishop of Algoma and create a more sustainable future for ministry in that region. One of the more exciting developments in 2025 was the way in which AFC leaned into its role as a strategic foundation within the Anglican Church of Canada. We see this work as anticipating trends, responding with flexibility, and resourcing the church as faithfully and effectively as possible, supporting what is, but also helping the church to imagine what might be. And our messaging began to include this vision of investing in the church of tomorrow today. This was the thrust of my message at General Synod in London, Ontario last summer, and of the video that we prepared and which you can see on the AFC website called Imagine More, A Hopeful Vision for the Anglican Church of Canada, which we shared at General Synod. I'm not going to share that video with you here because while we learned that virtual meetings are possible, sharing video doesn't work. So we're not going to attempt that. One of the more important ways that AFC is leaning into this strategic foundation role is by providing leadership in legacy giving across the church. This was a need that we began to discern just over a year ago, and it had emerged from our previous strategic plan. At the AGM last spring, we announced that AFC was launching a new resource called Grow Your Legacy, a booklet and accompanying online resources, including a parish talk legacy toolkit, to begin conversations around legacy giving at the local level. And this resource encourages Anglicans to consider in their estate plans how they can strengthen the church's mission locally, nationally, and around the world. We provided a copy of this booklet in the delegate bags AFC handed out at General Synod, and it's also available through our website, and many parish communities have taken it up and have begun to have these conversations at the local level as we intended. For those also who do choose to include the Anglican Foundation in their legacy plans, last year we established the Anglican Foundation Legacy Society to recognize and celebrate those individuals who have made a commitment to ensuring the future of the Anglican Church through a gift to AFC. Those Canadian Anglicans who join the Legacy Society through to the end of 2027, which is AFC's 70th anniversary year, will be recognized as founding members. And so that leads us directly into our current activities, starting with some updates on the legacy giving front, followed by our current Say Yes to Kids campaign and the 2026 request for proposals. Earlier this year, the 2026 Winter Foundation update included a center page entirely devoted to AFC's legacy giving work and the Anglican Foundation Legacy Society, including announcing two of the first founding members of that group. Our board director and investment committee chair, Michael Butler of the Diocese of Toronto, and the Venerable Dr. Richard Leggett and the Reverend Paula Porter Leggett of the Diocese of New Westminster, who are both thankfully here at this meeting. And we're so grateful to you to be among the first individuals to step forward and be named as founding members of this Legacy Society. Immediately after the winter update landed, At least five more individuals came forward to be founding members, including two that we featured in our spring foundation update. Dean Peter Elliott of the Diocese of New Westminster, and Canon David Jones, the former Chancellor of General Synod of the Diocese of Edmonton. At this point, we are hearing from prospective legacy members almost every week. It's really remarkable. And I believe that we have now confirmed 13 founding members are in discussion with approximately 10 more individuals or couples. And we are receiving some truly beautiful testimonials from these members, sharing what it means for them to make a legacy gift to AFC. Here's one example from Barbara and Brian Crow of the Diocese of Edmonton. They wrote to us, "Becoming founding members of the Anglican Foundation Legacy Society is our way of making a forever gift to the glory of God, supporting future ministries and helping improve lives for generations to come." And so we are so grateful for all of those who have stepped forward in this way. Changing gears a little, while still focused on investing in the Church of Tomorrow today, the 2026 Say Yes to Kids campaign is off to a great start. This year, we have 25 teams across the country participating with a collective goal of raising approximately $150,000. And once again, AFC is able to provide a matching gift of $1,000 to each team once they reach their first $1,000 raised through local efforts, thanks to the generosity of a matching donor. And for those who don't know where to designate their gift, there's also the national team, and the funds that are directed there will be shared amongst the participants at the end of the campaign. So far, I just checked before the meeting, I think we're at $79,000 that has been raised towards our goal of 150. And the campaign runs through to the end of June and includes a special Say Yes to Kids Sunday on June 14th. And so I encourage you to visit the website, make a donation to Say Yes to Kids, and to find a way to celebrate and recognize the children and youth of your parish on June 14. But the bigger news story that emerged in the context of this campaign is that Say Yes to Kids, the Say Yes to Kids movement, as it's become, has officially surpassed $1 million in funds generated in support of children and youth ministry initiatives across Canada since 2021 when it began. What started as an emergency response during the pandemic has matured into a sustainable national movement supporting young people and youth ministry across the Anglican Church of Canada. And one of the strongest indicators of the campaign's sustainability has been the growing number of returning teams. Many participating organizations are now entering their third, fourth, or fifth year consecutive campaigns, demonstrating the value that Say Yes to Kids has had in becoming embedded in their long-term ministry and budgeting planning for children and youth ministry at their local level. And so Say Yes to Kids is enabling the church to make a sustained and joyful investment in children and youth ministry, and we celebrate this remarkable milestone. Lastly, from me for today, we've just announced the theme of the 2026 request for proposals, and that is for community bridge building and crisis response. This will be a national funding initiative designed to support Anglican ministries responding to some of the most urgent challenges facing Canadian communities today. Across Canada, church communities are offering food, presence, advocacy, safe space, and other practical supports and accompaniments to neighbors in their regions that are facing a myriad of complex realities. At the same time, many ministries are stretched and under-resourced, and this RFP is intended to help bridge that gap and provide funding for new and existing projects that strengthen local and regional responses to support sustainable community well-being. This RFP reflects the messaging that we've heard from across Canada. Congregations want to respond faithfully and safely within their capacity, and they need practical support in doing so. And so if you're interested in this RFP in submitting a project proposal, the information and criteria is on our website, and applications will be due October 1st. And that brings me to the end of my report and reflections on 2025 and current state of activities for AFC. I just want to stop my sharing here and once again say a very, very special thank you to all of you for being here. Thank you to the remarkable board of directors that we have at the Anglican Foundation, very, very dedicated directors, to the diocesan reps who are in our midst, to my fellow staff at AFC, and to you, our faithful donors. Thank you, because without you, we could not do anything that we do, and our ministry would not exist without you. So thank you very much.